Thales is a really interesting company to be involved in because it's global. 65,000 people worldwide, operating in 50 countries with capabilities even more. So it creates really interesting challenges for a security professional. The first one is understanding what it is we've got to protect and why and from whom. So we need to get all those things together. So when you think that 60 to 70% of all the world's air traffic systems, nearly a quarter of all the world's satellites, and 60% of all the world's banking cryptography, just to mention a couple of things, are all part of Thales's activities. The security of those is absolutely critical. So then we also add the defence things like submarines, helicopters, weapon systems, etc. We are right there with all the attractive things that everyone from criminals to terrorists to state agencies involved in espionage are after. So I look out at the world from where I stand and say, how do you deal with highly valuable, important, often government classified assets from multi-governments and the range of adversaries out there? So you have to be really hot on security. You have to think about security in an enterprise risk management way. How do you do that? Well, I think the first thing you do is you have to actually understand risk, and you understand risk by understanding who your stakeholders are, what their needs are, what you hold, what your assets, and I mean intellectual assets, property, as well as capability, what you've got, and how important is it? Because some things you don't need to protect as much. Some things you might only need to protect for a month because it's in the lead up to a major deal. Once the deal's done, it's not classified anymore. So you need to understand your business, and security people who don't understand their business cannot operate at the enterprise level. So you've got to understand your enterprise. You've also got to understand the customers of your enterprise to know what their concerns are. So I look at that and say, okay, if I have all this material, physical assets, personnel, people with capabilities that need to be looked after, and I have high value information, I need to ensure that the vulnerabilities that exist in your buildings, in your employment processes, in your information systems are appropriately dealt with and controlled to ensure that the hostile adversary, and that includes an insider who might go wrong, that the hostile adversary is defeated. I go back to international standards. I start with the ISO 31000 risk management standard, and then I look at what else is available. There's supply chain security work, there's resilience work, there's all these things that help me think about how I need to do the things we do. Some of the best stuff is interesting enough in government. That might sound counterintuitive, but it is, because the Australian Protective Security Policy Framework and the equivalent British one actually provide a fantastic framework for telling you how to do security. You don't have to do everything that's there, but as you work your way down through that, you'll get really good results if you do some of the things they suggest. Similarly, the Defence Signals people, now ASD, they provide a fantastic checklist of IT security. And if you do the top 4 or 5 of those, you'll increase your security by 90%. And if you do the top 8, you will be up there nearly to 100% for the type of threats an average company faces. So it's all out there for you, but you've got to have people that know how to do it. So the other thing I think about and recommend is get to the right training institution, whether it's a university like Edith Cowan that has good specialisations in IT security and undergraduate security, the new faculty or department at Macquarie University, and of course ANU at the strategic level with the National Security College. You can find people there who actually can work at multiple levels of your company. We run an intern program. That intern program means I take third-year students out of Canberra University, I take postgraduate students out of Macquarie University, and we give them hands-on experience in the company under the supervision of security professionals. You need to think beyond just your day-to-day security tasks. If you can get all your enterprise risk management stuff as it focuses on security right, you've actually got to think about how you organise your people. So it's really important that the leaders in security in your enterprise have direct access to the board and the top executives. They're the ones that own the risk, and you should be indispensable to their decision making. If you're not, security is often a poor cousin. It's seen as a cost centre, it's not seen as a business enabler. So I think that's really important. And then you need the right people on the ground. So I've invested a lot in training. I've had my staff go through security risk management at Canberra Institute of Technology. Many of them have done the program for ASIS International, and 9 of them are registered with the Security Professionals Registry. And that's something you need to think about. There's opportunities to get your people recognised, whether through ASIS or whether through the registry here in Australia and New Zealand, to build their competence. And you can't do a good job without competent people. Ultimately, that investment in policy, process, risk assessment, supported by good intelligence on how the threats are changing, how they may act against you, and a deep and fundamental understanding of what your business is, are absolutely critical. And then it's about getting the right people. And sometimes you need well-experienced people, and they could be out of police, they could be out of military, but you need to bring them into a business perspective. You need to think about how they can learn to understand security in a global business environment. And the last thing I'd say is look after your people. Make everyone in your company a security officer, that they understand that their job and the success of their job is interdependent with security, so that they help you do your job. We in Thales actually make the vice presidents responsible for security of their business group, and they have to allocate the resources to achieve security against the framework and policies that I set. And when I set those, I also audit them. We do a quarterly audit, and it goes to the board of directors to ensure that people are doing the things they need to do to ensure the adversaries do not get the advantage. I think the most important thing is that there are external regulatory regimes. There's national security regulations, there's defence security regulations, there's regulations for the international trafficking in arms because we make weapons. There's also a whole range of rules about where you can provide technology to it. So they have to understand the rules and they have to implement those rules. You can have serious consequences of non-compliance, whether it's just local laws in a state for the handling of weapons and munitions, or it's international transfer of high levels of technology between countries. So they have to look at that on a day-to-day basis. Then they have to think about how they provide traditional protective security, securing a building, everything from do we have the right access control systems in place, do we identify our staff, do we have our badges, our passes, are they kept up to date. We also need our security people to have a good relationship with the first line managers, because that's the place where you detect the insider going wrong. I've always said it's better to get someone and help them before they go too far down that track. So we have an enterprise-wide employment program for helping employees in trouble. And it doesn't matter what the trouble is. It could be gambling, could be illness. And so we work with that because that's actually the first line defence, helping your people feel well led, well rewarded, well recognised, and able to come forward so that there's no fear in your organisation. Fear is one of the worst things because people will hide what they're doing in order to avoid the consequences. If they know the consequences are actually about getting help, you can reduce the probability of insider threat considerably. But ultimately, there's insiders who will do things for the wrong reasons. So monitoring that environment is one of our roles. Just providing advice. I mean, typical advice, you're travelling overseas. The range of risks can be nothing to exceedingly dangerous. But if you do risk management, you can send people to very dangerous places like the southern Philippines or Afghanistan because you've analysed the situation, you've got the intelligence to tell you what the risks are, and you put in the security controls to ensure that they're safe so they can do their job. One of the things that's really important is we're all interconnected. And because we're all interconnected, the actions taken by someone, whether it's in a supply chain or a client-partner relationship, can have an effect on your company. So you actually need to share what you do, how you do it, what the vulnerabilities are and what the risks are as a consequence with those you work with. For myself, I'm an active benchmarker. I look out for companies that do things well so I can look at how they do things. There's companies such as Qantas, Coca-Cola, Citibank and others who have actively benchmarked in order to look at how they do their crisis management, their training, and this is one of those areas where there's no competition. Even a big defence company that we might be competing with for a product win, we'll share our security processes with them in order to ensure that Australia is safe or our international obligations are met. So security is one of those things where you need to have a network and you need to trust it. And you build that trust through engagement, sharing, and forming those positive personal and professional relationships. If I had to sum up, I think you actually have to put together an enterprise model that addresses the risks that arise in security. You need to find out how to control the vulnerabilities in the face of the threats that are out there, and you need to equip and skill your people, because it's not a job for one person, it's a job for many. And the many are actually all your employees. Communicate to them that security is part of their daily life. One of the things that I encourage security professionals to do is get involved in the associations and institutes that support security. Some of them could be as much as, say, the Metals Foundation, which helps shape public attitudes to security, and others such as ASWS International, which provides you with 38,000 colleagues worldwide who you can talk to. I use them. If I have a problem in the Philippines, I have a whole bunch of people over there who can talk the same language, who we know. And that's really useful. But then there's other groups as well in the information sharing, the Australian Information Security Association. If you have an IT orientation, you'd be silly to go past it. Same with ISACA, the International Group for Security Accreditation in the IT space. So you need to get involved in those things, whether it's just to turn up and participate, but more importantly, get involved as an action person. Help shape that. And if you want to help shape the security environment, engagement in standards development, and people can talk to me about that, and engagement with government and workshops and other things is a critical way of doing it. You really don't want to have people making decisions in isolation of how you do your business. So by engaging, by benchmarking, by joining up with the right things, and getting out there yourself to talk and promote security, all those things will make us in Australia, and indeed those who are our friends and allies, more secure in the future.